All right. Hello, beautiful people. What's good with y'all today? Y'all know who it is. Y'all know who it ain't. This is Jazz the Pretty Plug. I'm here to motivate, educate, and inspire you all to be all you're called to be simply by walking by faith and launching your gold. And your gold is the gifts that only the Lord delivers. Now, on today, I have a special guest. We are going to be talking about Wealth Wednesdays and investing in yourself with Stand Strong Investments. Now, with that being said, you're like, you know what, Jasmine, you didn't talk a lot. You didn't had Walk by Faith Wednesday. Now you're talking about Wealth Wednesday. Well, one of the most important things that I've learned is if you walk by faith, you're going to have to apply some action. And if you apply the right type of action, you should actually be trying to protect yourself, your dreams, your wealth, and your family. And today, on this Wealth Wednesday, we're going to be diving into some crucial conversations about achieving your protected prosperity with vetted, trusted, and proven experts. And I got my friend, he go by Stand Strong. Okay, he wants you to stand so strong. Brian Aramoye, he is hailing from the charming town of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Brian has built a vibrant life in Dallas, Texas, where they reside with their spouse of 10 years and their wonderful children, with a robust career of 15 years as an electrician. And he is honored in the expertise of electrical construction, health, and data facilities. He's a serial entrepreneur and also an educator for the past 6 years. He's found out about YouTube. We love that for him. And he has delved into various fields, including consumer credit strategy, financial services, and investing. He is also a certified financial planner and financial
Lost him.
advisor. All right, I'm back. We love a good effort. Um, he is a serial entrepreneur and educator of the past 6 years. Brian has delved into various fields, including consumer credit strategy, real estate investment, and financial services. His passion for innovation is evident in the work as an inventor, constantly seeking new ways to improve and manage assets, and as a dedicated professional. Brian combines practical experiences with a deep understanding of asset management, making him a trusted advisor and credit strategist in the financial sector. His commitment to education, entrepreneurship continues to inspire those around him and also the growth and development in his community. So, can y'all give me a round of applause to welcome Mr. Brian Staying Strong? How y'all doing today? How are you
Thank you
today?
for that wonderful introduction. I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm so grateful to have you. So, I just want to know, how did we meet? Because you are a very unique person and you have a lot of experience in various things. But I met you inside of your investment, and I would love for us to unpack that as an icebreaker.
Sure. You met me, what was it? Coming out of, what was it, still 2020?
It was 2020. I was
Coming out of
coming out of a
COVID, right?
divorce.
We was coming
Yes.
out of COVID a little bit. And I was actually in another cash flow opportunity investment where I had acquired, I started off with two, but having 16 units in a 32 unit apartment complex in Old East Dallas that I was able to utilize to help traveling nurses throughout the pandemic that we were going through. And when it started, I only had two, but being able to pivot and see an opportunity, I was able to grow throughout COVID to 16 units. And towards as we was coming out of there, that's when you end up booking. And I was actually looking to uh, book a multi-use space, let's say, that I was using as my turnover unit, and I had an open room, so it was a shared space that you end up booking. Yeah,
Yes.
that's
So let me tell y'all my perspective. I was I was going through a divorce. Me and my ex-husband had split up, and I had lived with my mom for a month, but that was all I could do was 30 days. And then I go to Airbnb and I see this spot in Deep Ellum. It was kind of like Deep Ellum area, it was downtown, and it was reasonable price. I was like, I can't beat this. I booked it for 30 days. And next thing you know, it was key turn entry. All I needed was to come on in. That was it. He had everything set up, bed, clothes. I mean, if all I was missing was myself. Kitchen had dishes and stuff in it. I mean, it was set up really nice. And last thing I know, I seen this black man. I said, well, I didn't know this was. I was like, well, what's this? He's like, hey, I don't have no fear. I'm here to wash clothes. I'll be here once a week. And I'm like, well, okay, he got some motion. I didn't know what motion you had, but I was like, I wasn't in the mental space at the time to question what you were doing. I'm going to be honest. I just needed to lay my head and get some ground. And every time I would come in, I was on Instagram Live, something like this, yelling at the phone. And now it's funny because now you on here with me as we're talking to the screen and the computer. But I say all that to say, I met him inside of his investments. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about these social media platforms. I think Airbnb match makes people, because this is the second person, or no, this was the first person that I had one long-term stay with, and I'm doing Airbnb and stuff in Dallas. And when I tell you, the people that own these properties, their mindset is on another level. I actually never want to really do an apartment again, because it's like, why can't I just meet new people and learn business and get part of business deals? I think it's great to network. And so I want to know what has taken place from 2020 to 2024. And I'm going to mute myself because I just really want to learn and understand, because you've been standing on some business. You've been standing strong.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Well, that was Stand Strong Homestays investment opportunity that you witnessed. Now, prior to Stand Strong Homestays, we have Stand Strong Investments, which is the real estate investment company that I manage. Now, with that company, we like to acquire real estate property with little to no money and without using banks. Okay, because we are an investor, we're not the bank, and we offer win-win opportunities for our clients. Uh, right before 2020, we closed on a property around December of 2019. We acquired it for 5 grand on a credit card. The property was worth 230,000 at the time. Now, how do we do that, How you get 5 grand on a 230,000 property? Well, let's just say the person was what we call a motivated seller. Okay, they moved into this property. They wasn't even in there for a year. They ran into a situation where the person they moved in with moved out, and they took half the stuff. Now, this person, the home was in their name, and they didn't want to leave the home because they really couldn't sell it. There was no equity in the home. All right. And they didn't want to just stop paying. They didn't want it to affect their credit. So this home was causing them pain. With that pain, I had a solution. I ended up taking over the property, giving them about 5 grand to move out. I took over the payments, and in turn, I became a situation because I was able to offer the home to someone else. I wasn't finna move in the home. I didn't need the home. I just seen the opportunity of it being an asset and that it could cash flow for me. So we end up reselling the home to another buyer who agreed to come into this home as if it was their own. They lived not far from the home, and they was actually in the business of looking for somewhere else to stay. So, like I said, it was a win-win for everyone. Now, when we do transactions like this, we do not require credit. Okay, we don't do no credit checks. This is a cash business, so we need to know that you're heavy or liquid with the cash flow. All right. Now you don't get no lease either, right? Because we're taking a chance with not accepting credit. So you have to pay a more of a larger down deposit. Okay, typically 15 to 20% of the estimated appraisal value of the property. Now with this particular property, the person paid me 26,000 down. They moved in, they signed a promissory note with me for the next 30 years, and they've been paying me $2,100 a month cash flow like clockwork for the last 4 years now, a little bit, almost going on 5 years. About that time, we also would cash out refinance on the property for about 227K. Uh, if you're catching those numbers, 2,100 for 48 months plus 227, you're looking at almost 300 some $1,000 off a $5,000 investment. So that's what we was on right before we got into Airbnb, because the real estate is a little bit more slower with time. But with the Airbnb, we were able to get in position to get an apartment and cash flow that even faster. I want to say the first year of Airbnb with the 16 units, we did like 300K that year, and that's during COVID. Right after COVID, we shot up to about 1.2 million in cash flow. So at that point, it was just like, all right, let's buy the building and start buying more. We ran into an issue though. The owner of the building, we carried them through COVID, and then they got greedy on me.
Mm.
I wanted to buy the building because I know that my 26,000 a month is paying your mortgage, and there's still 16 other units that I don't have control of. All right, so I tried to buy it. Price I was trying to give them was like 2.7 mil. They felt that it was worth 4.9. Well, that was unfair because I was half the rent roll, so you were evaluating my business at 4.7. So I declined and I said, maybe a foreign investor will pay that, but I'm not going to pay that. And about a year later, a little less than a year later, a foreign investor came and bought the building. But before they bought that building, guess who they had to talk to?
You.
Why? Because I was a big liability. Because in commercial units or real estate, especially apartment complexes, it goes by the rent roll. That's how many doors it is and who's paying. So they want to see that documentation. So when they ask for that before they make their purchase, they will see my company, Stand Investment, was on that rent roll 16 times, and that's the real liability. Because if I don't pay them, they're going to be in a tight situation. But the whole part of it was I strategized and came up through COVID. Okay, because in COVID they had the memorandums where people couldn't get put out their home. So you got to think people that run apartment complexes, they wasn't getting paid. Now me, however, I was doing my business with the short-term rental and assisting nurses, traveling nurses throughout Dallas at that time. So my units was booked all the time. So my biggest issue was getting more units. So since I'm still paying the property owner, they're gonna do whatever I ask them to feed me units and I'll cover you throughout COVID. You'll still keep getting your money. And that's what we did. So they was happy. They allowed me to run my business. They respected. They were really blown away on how tight a knit business I was running because I really didn't have no issues. I managed it very well. I also utilized the people in the apartments that I had good relationships with. I would help them out with things from time to time that they may need. So it was a nice, close operating facility. And it was a blessing. I even had a situation where I was affected by COVID at one point. My father had caught it. I lost my little sister during COVID, and I was able to utilize that complex to actually house my family members to keep them isolated while my dad was going through the COVID because I had some other siblings and nieces and nephews that could have been affected as well. So it's been a lot these past 4 years. Even since then, I even acquired a bunch of vehicles right after coming out of COVID. I leveraged credit and got about 9 brand new vehicles with no money down, and we put those vehicles on Toro and made about 100,000 on vehicles, renting them out. And then I also rented them out to some of my Airbnb guests that needed vehicles when they was coming into town. I just maximized on the opportunity, especially being in Dallas, which is a big city. We have 2 major airports, so they're always busy. And when we came about a COVID, Hertz had sold like 1 million cars because nobody was traveling throughout 2020. So there was a need in the market for vehicles because there weren't no vehicles. So that's where platforms, social media, right? Like Turo was able to assist people to attain what they needed. People needed vehicles. People were using their own personal vehicles and renting them out and making some cash flow. So it was a real good. It was a real good. 2020 was good. 2021 was good. It's been good the whole 4 years. I can't lie. We've just been steady pivoting, elevating, and moving on to different things, and just steady kind of reinventing myself, so to speak. Now, I will say here right now, what we got going on, we're going to be focusing on more asset protection and showing people how to purchase wealth faster than we can really acquire it through our labor. So we're really excited about that. That's going to come through Stand Strong Capital. But we're going to really be focusing on really changing the trajectory and showing people how to really sustain that generational wealth that they're seeking without having to work so hard for it, but just making better decisions on where you place your money, where it can grow exponentially, let's just say.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. For the last 4 years, I have just been reinventing myself, but I'm like, I've had to give myself so much grace because I'm like, the amount of people I know, the information I have, all it needs is money. That's it.
Mm.
That's it. At any time, we can push some buttons. And God sent me to a what I would call a mass mutual company, and
Mhm.
I got to learn where money resided. And I was
Hmm.
like, oh, this what y'all be up to. I get it now. And
Right.
wealth is super quiet, right? Because the most wealthiest people don't want you to know that they got money because they don't want you to take it, or they don't want you to get any big, bright ideas. And especially when you look like us, we tend to have a little bit of adversity. But I will say that self education has propelled me further, faster than any degree that I could have gotten at school or in college. I'm just going to be honest with you.
Right.
I think college taught me how to think, but it gave me a network. I know so many people from Prairie View, TSU, Texas A&M. I know everybody, I feel like, because I'm the plug. So I really use college just for that. But when it came to the information, I ain't used none of that to make no money. It got me some jobs and internships, but it did just that. It got me a career, what they would say, but it did not bring me
Hmm.
closer to my calling. And I feel like self education brings you closer to your calling, which is different from a career. So a career is what you get paid for, and a calling is what you're made for. And that's kind of what I'm going to go with on that. So, what is your value of self education, and how has that propelled you forward?
That's a great question. Well, I will say, even with the real estate, by trade, I'm an electrician. Like you mentioned in the introduction, I've done that for 15 years. Towards the end of that career, I made a pivot in my thinking, realizing that at the time I was making about 160,000 a year. Okay, so I was just really thinking one day, these people pay me real good money. I said, but for them to be able to pay me that, they got to be making at least 4 times that amount off of me. So I said, you know what? I need to bet on myself, and I just need to find that opportunity. So that's what kind of led me to real estate. I was really intrigued by it. And in my commute to work, I always had a lot of downtime. For the last 3 years of working as an electrician, I was building a data center for Facebook through my electrical company that I work for. And it ended up being a 3-year job. So that's very long to be on one job site for an electrician. So the commute was about an hour every morning, 2 hours on the way back. Unless the weather was bad, it might take three. You know how Dallas traffic is. But I had a lot of downtime. I started reprogramming myself, listening to different things. There was one guy in particular named Phil Petrowski. I used to like to listen to on YouTube a lot for his real estate advice. And it was always free, valuable content that he was giving. He was never trying to sell anything. And I liked that. And one day he offered a mentorship. And I sent in a request to join the mentorship, not knowing what it really was going to consist of. I just know I wanted some real estate advice. And to make a long story short, he called back. He asked a few questions, trying to see where my head was at, and if I was really ready to invest in myself. Now that investment, he told me was going to cost me $30,000. At the time, I didn't have $30,000 to give this man, even though I had just purchased my first home. He realized that situation and that opportunity, so he understood the value of my credit, and he explained to me, man, you didn't purchase your home with cash, so let's get. And through his guidance, I was able to leverage my credit and get about 70,000 in credit cards. All right, and then I was able to leverage that 70,000. They gave him 30 to for his mentorship. That was one-on-one guidance, pretty much. And we had a deal for $500,000. We're going to work for $500,000. Once we get there, we can separate and go our own separate ways, or we can keep getting money together. All right. So from the time I gave him that 30,000, the next 6 months, it was pure hell. I ain't gonna lie, it was a lot. It was a lot of different moving parts. But what Phil had mastered was being able to wear different hats in the transaction. So he keeps most of the bag. Right. So I learned that, and about 6 months later, I walked into that opportunity that I just mentioned before. Well, let's say that opportunity called me because I was running Google ads at this time. So my ads was working for me. So I wasn't knocking on doors or cold calling nobody. We was leveraging technology. We post ads. We pay to be on the first page. So when people type in those keyword searches, my ad pulled up, and just one day, my ad brought me $230,000 asset that I've been eating on ever since then. So investing in me was that light bulb moment, and the more that I spend money to educate myself, the more that it comes back tenfold. So that's
I
been my
love it.
greatest achievements thus far.
And one thing I've learned, if you invest 10,000, you should at least be able to make 100,000. It's almost like a 10% kind of thing, right? If you have an education, your $50,000 worth of loans for your school should at minimum equal out to a career that can give you 500,000
Hmm.
before taxes.
Hmm.
And if we start to look at educating in ourselves the same as we look at educating ourselves in college, whatever investment, whether it be 997, 2,000, 10,000, 30,000, that person is helping us to speed up the time, make less mistakes, but also position ourselves with a network of people that think the same way. That $30,000 investment probably gave you some real good friends. I'm
Hmm.
not gonna lie. In this time in my life, if you ain't talking money, I just don't like to talk. You can find me on your nearest social media, but a lot of people like to talk. They don't like to do. And my prayer is that people believe in themselves enough to do. And so I want to ask you, what is the highest amount, if you could total it up, that you have invested in yourself to get where you are today?
I don't know because there's some things we can't measure with a dollar, and that's time.
Mm,
That's the biggest investment was the time. The dollars are fiat; they're just debt instruments. Promise IOUs, promissory notes. The real value is just the time, putting the time into myself. And respecting others' time, and then taking advantage of my time, maximizing my time. You see, I'm not wasting my time.
mhm.
That's the biggest part.
I love that. And would you say that even your L's were lessons? Because I know that you said that some of the things you did, it was challenging. I can't say that if you go into business today and you follow your greatest mentor, they can't guarantee you that you won't go through your process. A lot of people don't like to go through their process. Sometimes process equals a little bit of failing or a little bit of L's, but those L's are lessons. And then people get bitter and they say, oh, well, you weren't a good mentor. It's like, no, what is your process in order to break your generational curse in your family? And with that, sometimes you don't know. So I want to ask you that too, on what does that really mean for you when it comes to the L's that you may have taken? How did that resonate with you?
Well, you never lose until you stop trying. Anything else, you're just producing a result. Okay, so if the result wasn't like it, you tweak it and you change a few things. That's where the pivot comes in, as I mentioned with the Airbnb, right? Because I started my Airbnb in January of 2020. About 2 months later, COVID hit. And it was like, okay, I've got this investment for people to travel. Now people's not traveling. Right now, I was in groups and stuff on Facebook, and you can hear people that have been doing it forever. They've never witnessed nothing like this. They got very complacent and woke up, and all their money was gone. From people committing suicide to doing all types of crazy stuff behind this. But I was in early enough, and I prepared myself enough that I was able to pivot and see a change that I needed to make. So now that people are not traveling in groups, I need to get smaller spaces for individual people as well as the workforce that will be traveling individually. So that was me taking almost taking an L and turning it into a W.
That's what I'm talking about. Give me 2 seconds. It's
Yeah.
super unprofessional, but there's somebody at the door
Okay.
and I need to answer it. 1 second.
All right.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Um, I like how you said that you turned your L's into W's. And I think that that is the power of actually being an entrepreneur. That's how you know you're a business person. If you don't look at your failure as someone else's fault and you actually take accountability and say, I needed to learn this in order to get to the next level. Right. And a lot of times when we are not positioning ourselves with the right people or when we are not thinking about every opportunity, it sometimes comes with the lesson. We can be a part of like this mental shift of I'm a failure. Have you ever had to just transition your mindset from I'm a failure to I'm a winner? I'm a failure to I actually know what I know that this is a part of my process. Have you ever had to do that?
Well, to recap, working in construction is a hard job. All right. As an electrician, we have no eraser on our pencil. All right. One false move and you're dead. I lived a rough life, so I'm used to taking chances, right? But my chances are very calculated. So even through adversity, we still stand strong through it all. So if I could tell you about some failures I had in the electrical field, and we still turned out into wins. But yeah, adversity is what molds you and shapes you to give you that vision and that experience to share with others because it's going to be inspire someone or it's going to make them not even want to chance, but it's going to do one or the other. So we have to embrace it all. It's all part of the destination because that's part of the journey, right?
Yes. I love that. And I think that's probably why you named your business Stand Strong. When I think of your brand, I'm like, he's standing on business, some strong business. And I don't look at you as somebody that if I ask a question, I feel like you'll have a way to get to an answer. And I feel like we share that because electrical engineers or electricians, we look at problems from the outside in. Like we're going to analyze every single thing before we actually step into it. But then at the same time, it's like you can't over calculate something. You just got to do it. And a lot of times people just don't be doing it, right? I want to talk to you about how you leverage credit. Like you said, you turned a $5,000 investment, 5K off a credit card into over 300,000. Now that is some pretty good stuff, I'll say, but not a lot of us know how to do that. So could you talk to us about the power of credit?
Right, right. Well, certainly. Well, with credit, let's say business credit, right? Because we're typically here credit and it kind of gets put in one box as your personal credit. But the personal credit where it starts, but when you start talking business wise, it allows you to duplicate yourself, right? Because as one person, you only can do so much. And as a consumer, you only need so much, let's say, access to capital. But as a business, there is no cap because it's limitless possibilities you can do as a business. So you're able to get more credit on a business side than you are the personal side. Okay. And then when you understand that credit is it's a means to obtain something to get you some income. It's not a means to obtain something to create a liability. When you understand the difference, you're more selective on what you spend with that credit because you're always looking to get at least two times that back in return. Why? Because one has to pay off the credit card, and the second one needs to at least pay you for putting it all together. Because once we start doing this, we understand that the mindset is we acquire assets versus liabilities with a credit card because that asset is always going to pay for itself, right? Liabilities bleed you, credit can feed you, right? So we just got to know where to put it in things and take a little chance. It's all well calculated. We're not doing nothing outrageously crazy. You know, everything is strategically planned, and all um, what could go wrong has already been taken into account once we implement any of our type of investment strategies. So we have an exit plan, so to speak. But overall, the credit, and I'll give you an example. All right, so let's say, for instance, when I did the Toro business, all right. Now, I mentioned that I went and got 9 cars, 9 cars within 30 days. Okay. The first day, I grabbed like 3 cars, came back a week later to the same dealership and grabbed 2 more with the same car salesman. And he was blown away because he knew he just sold me 3 cars. And I'm back in there. They ran the credit score again. And this time the credit score was higher than it was when we there the first time. So he was like, "How did you do that?" And well, maybe you need to tap in, which he ended up doing. And I showed him how we do that. It's just understanding credit so well because it's your credit. If you don't understand it, you shouldn't use it really until you really do, because that's the pitfalls of it. You know, there are a lot of times force and offer you and entice people that don't have good discipline or spending habits, and they entice you with credit to put you into debt. And debt is bondage. It's involuntary servitude. So we need to be aware of these types of things because they don't really teach it in school. Why? I wonder who's control of the books. It wouldn't be the banks, would it? But that's another topic of information. But yes, indeed, credit is a tool, and once we leverage it correctly, it can really change the world.
And I'm going to be honest, I'm 30, right? I have seen so much scamming take place with credit. If a person call you to pay a bill, don't answer it. You ain't got to answer it. Why? You're a borrower. They're calling you because you owe them money. Every time you don't pay them, your credit score goes down. Misinformation. Also, based off your credit score, you know, the things that they put on your report, you can fight things to get it off of your report. There are some illegal things that can take place where maybe you did do something, but it doesn't have to live with you forever to harm your ability to buy, right?
Right, right.
I have just seen some of the most diabolical, I'll say that, diabolical stuff when it comes to credit. And it gets to a point where if you, I'm from Palm Bluff, Arkansas, if you weren't born and raised with financial literacy, you're like, well, who do you believe? So what would you say to somebody that's like, I see all this information, it's everywhere. Who am I supposed to believe?
Well, they say success has receipts. So if someone is just talking about something, I always tell people do your own due diligence. Don't take anything you see, especially on social media, because you don't know. It's AI is a fool these days. It's going to deceive you, you know. So take it with a grain of salt. Do your research, and if the person that's giving you information, how long have they been given this information? Check their, research the person. Do they have any receipts? Can you Google them? Can you see anybody in their comments that's talking about them using the information and being successful using the information? The person giving you the information, are they showing you any type of receipts that they use it, or them taking action themselves, or they just regurgitating stuff? So those are all the types of things I would say. Me, myself, I pretty much speak on things that I personally have experience and knowledge in, or things I may be looking to get into, but I won't go too in detail on it. But fact checking is very crucial in this day and age, I will say.
Yes, you got to become an investigator. You got to investigate the person that's trying to take your money. And I'd say for me, one of my life lessons is being too trusting or being too like optimistic, especially because I'm somebody that like I see the good in someone. But now God has shown me discernment and bad. I'm like, oh God, oh, can't go with that. But it's trusting your gut. And I've learned that women, we oftentimes need a lot more confirmation in order to press go on certain things. And so having like one true man that you can trust that has your best intentions at heart is often like really positive, especially if you're going to go into a business deal. I'll say like my dad is somebody that I like to talk to. And also I have a lot of other like mentors and things. But I have learned that when it comes to like men and women, we will make sure we got all the pieces together and then we'll go and run with it. Men, they will have the wheels on the car, but don't got the car, but sell you the car. I've seen it take place, and I'm like, Oh, wow. That's what y'all be doing. But also, I think that that's just the difference, right? I
Mm,
won't sell something technically until I know it for myself to be true.
right.
Men, not so much. So sometimes you just have to know your boundaries and who you're willing to do business with. And then again, looking at the clip notes, looking at the reviews, looking at, did this person do what they say that they were supposed to do the last time they said they was gonna do it?
Hmm.
Half the time you'll be like, no, they didn't follow up. They didn't send the email. They didn't communicate. That's probably going to show a part of anything else if you spend $1 with them. So
Right.
I'm super, super grateful that we can even just talk about the fact that that takes place to teach and educate people to actually learn more about people even before you purchase. And also, if the person that you're purchasing from is in a rush, they probably are in desperation and
Right.
ain't a lot of people buying from them.
Mm,
Because I've learned that if you're actually a business person and you're actually standing on business, this is something you're doing for the long haul, you're not in a rush to take people's money. You're like, hey, no, take a second, go review,
yeah.
go ask
Yeah.
questions.
Go do the
I'm
research.
not in a rush to do business. Actually, the less business, the better. I'm trying to do big plays with little waves. That's a wrap there. Big plays with little waves. I like
Yes.
that. But in general, it's just like, I'm not in a rush. And I tell people, if you're in desperation, I'm not the person for you, because transformation takes time, education takes time, learning new things that could set you and your family up for success. It takes time, especially if maybe you're
Yes.
behind in your finances, right? So let's say somebody has bad credit.
Mm,
It didn't get there overnight. You wasn't paying your bills a long time. So therefore, take that small step back, research, and make sure that you're positioning yourself for the best for yourself and your family. The next thing is streams of income. For me, one stream of income is too close to no streams of income. I like to diversify what I do. And the reason why is because we don't know what could happen. It changes by the day. I don't know if you've been outside. Stand strong. Outside is pretty wacky right now, especially because we're in politics. This is an election year, and I think it's designed that way to kind of make people lose their mind, in my opinion. But I want to talk to you about what does it mean to have multiple streams of income? What does it really mean? And a lot of people, they have misconceptions around it. I want to know, what's your version of multiple streams of income?
well, multiple streams is multiple streams sources of revenue that comes to you that you don't have to work as hard for, right? You only can get so much. Or if you're defined through your labor, what do you do when you can't move? When you
Mm,
can't walk or you don't feel good or you're sick. Just like you said, that one source of income is too close to none.
mm,
A lot of times, and it might be by design, a concept, but we've been complacent on being an employee and not being a producer as much. We
mm.
can produce something one time and gain a residual of income off of it. And that's what I don't think a lot of people realize, the power of that, right? Because there's nothing wrong with, working, but you should have something that can generate when you're not able to work. So the more things that you can have to go this route, the less work you would realize you actually have to do. Because you'll reach a point in life where you only need so much, right? Especially after your kids and got a certain age and grown, you only need so certain much. So if you can work and establish certain assets, and that's the whole thing of an asset, it creates a source of revenue for you. So you don't have to do it, but you have to be aware that these types of things exist. A lot of people just, oh, I don't want to be a business owner too much. Well, you don't have to be a business owner. You can be a silent investor, right? You can just be someone that loans money at a nice percent of return. You don't have to do the day in and day out of dealing with people. I get that. It can be a lot of, it could be a lot. So, just being aware that having a second source, and I think it just takes that one opportunity. Somebody get that second source and they see how easy it is, and then they see that there's no limit on this, and then you just always thinking of ways to generate another source.
Yes. I know for me, what I've been working towards for the last 10 years is content. Content is evergreen. It
Mhm.
is a one way for people to validate you. It's also a way for people to become comfortable with you, to build that like, know, and trust. Um,
Yeah.
and it will pay over time. People are waiting on some t-shirts from me. People are waiting on me to say, I'm ready to mentor. Right now, let me let's step back. But I went one time I did my coaching program and I made $7,000 in one day. I was like, I think I'm on to something. I think I'm on to something. And that's because I did a group coaching program. It was the Launch Your Gold Academy. I had 7 women pay me $9.97 for about 7 weeks. It was almost like 2 to 3 times that we met per week. And it was like an accelerator into understanding how to be yourself online, how to build your brand. And once I made that 7K, I started looking around like, I don't think that what I'm doing is half bad. But then you got to fight that mental of how other people may perceive your gift. And
Right.
when you start making some money, you stop caring. You're like, my bills are paid. You're going to work. I'm going to work. We're doing whatever we're doing to get our money. When there's time to go on a vacation to the Bahamas, I'm gonna pay my money. How you get your money, how I get my money, is how we gonna get our money. I'm gonna get my money off this internet because I like the internet and I feel like it likes me back. So,
Mhm.
and I've been able to maintain relationships. And I think that's another thing that we really need to talk about is when someone meets you, you can follow each other and they can get that opportunity to watch you, to see how they feel about you. And then they can reach back out and say, hey, what's up? That's the same thing me and you did. We didn't talk every single day. We didn't talk every year, but my butt kept showing up on this internet. And you're like, I think she on what I'm on. What's up? And then that's how I feel like the conversation has continued to go. Because you build that initial
Right.
relationship and it just keeps growing. So, one of the last things that I really want us to touch is what woke you up into financial freedom? Because, like you said, you've been doing a lot of things. You electrician, father, husband, but something had to wake up inside of you and say, I want different. I don't want to just do what everybody been doing to get the same results that everybody been getting. What was that breaking point for your financial freedom journey?
The breaking point, I would have to say right around 2018, I would say, and that was with my invention actually, because I had been sitting on it for so many years. And I had a guy that was worked for the company. He ended up passing away.
Mm,
And when I heard about that and the circumstances in which led to his passing and how he was, electrocuted, I was like, man, if I would have went on and came out with my invention, it could have saved that man's life. It was closer because he worked for the company this time. So I would say that triggered me as like I got to do something. I got to get what's in my head, get it on paper, get the concept, and then we get the prototype. And that would have been the hot gloves, my invention right there. That would have been my breaking point. And then once I got that going, it was just like, all right, what's next? Let's do something else. And then that was Stand Strong Technologies. Then we came Stand Strong Investments. Then we came Stand Strong Homestays. Then we came Stand Strong Capital. Then we came Stand Strong Rentals. Now we Stand Strong Equity. Equity in the news. So it was just one thing after the other, but the biggest part is just getting started, man. Just get started. Take action. Because at the end of the day, you turn into what you tune into.
mm.
They've been witness to that.
Hold on. You turn into what you tune into. That's what I'm talking about. And I love that. I want you to know it's been a true blessing to not only meet you, but to have been inside of your risk that you have taken. Because that $30,000 that you did one day led into that Airbnb that I could purchase or for that month. The next thing you know, you was like, go get some chicken. It's like, well, I don't think I like that chicken. I make my own chicken. But at least we had a good conversation enough to like, follow, and subscribe. And that's one thing I will not take away from meeting genuine people, especially when it comes to business and investing. And no matter what your route takes you, it's important to protect yourself, protect your dreams, protect your family, and protect your life. And I don't think any of us can be here today if we didn't have the idea, have the business, and then say, you know what? Well, I want to make sure I can stay around to see it through. And a lot of times people do not, they don't act unless it's fear provoked or death. That's what wakes people up. Those are the two things that wake someone up. Fear of losing their job, fear of losing something that they care about, fear of not actually taking a chance, or someone passing away that they really care about. And then it makes them become in the present. They exit the loop. That's what we want. We want people to exit out the loop. What is that loop? That loop is the matrix of doing the same thing in a routine. And you don't get out of that until you get shocked with fear or you lose somebody. And if you ask anybody that has really stood on that business for years to come, it has come because they've lost something or they feared something. And I hate that that's the way it has to be, but God will get our attention no matter what.
That's weird.
Have you enjoyed your time today on this Wealth Wednesday with me?
Yes, I have, Jazzy. I sure have. I appreciate you for bringing me on.
Yes, I was good today. I ain't talk too much. That's one thing. I ain't talk too much. But you guys, please tell them everywhere that they can follow you, where they can like, comment, and subscribe, where they can go and get your courses, where they can actually go and benefit from your knowledge and take it to the next level.
All right. Well, on social media platforms such as Instagram, I'm staying strong. YouTube, I'm also staying strong. And then on Facebook, I have a Facebook group which is called the 3X Credit Accelerator. And Jazzy, I will make sure I give you my link tree so you can put it at the
Yes.
video and they can have direct access to the Google link tree.
Correct. I'm going to put it inside of the bio as well so that you all can go and follow him, like, comment, and subscribe. Literally, you guys, he gives the game away. And I like people like him because he's not a gatekeeper. So, you guys, thank you so much for everything. And I'm going to now end the stream and talk to you soon.